Okay, let's dive right in. Welcome to The Explainer, everyone. I'm really thrilled you're here today because, let's face it, we are tackling one of the most critical, fast-moving, and honestly fascinating challenges out there right now. We are going to completely demystify the tangled web of AI regulations. How? By mapping out what I like to call the Big Three frameworks that are literally shaping the future of artificial intelligence. If you want to understand how we actually manage both the massive potential and the equally massive risks of AI, well, you're in exactly the right place. So here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at the era of AI governance, then the EU AI Act, followed by managing risk with NIST, tackling technical threats with OASP, and finally charting the path forward. Basically, we're taking a macro to micro journey today. We'll start way up high with international law and then zoom all the way down into the trenches to look at developer-level security threats. All right, Section 1, the era of AI governance, navigating the global regulatory landscape. Look, we are navigating a landscape that is shifting under our feet. Just to give you an idea of the urgency here, since 2023, there has been a massive 21.3% spike in global AI legislation, and that's across 75 different countries. To put that in perspective, that is a ninefold increase since 2016. So yeah, the Wild West days of AI, those are officially closing, and the era of strict, globally enforced governance is definitely here. Which brings us to Section 2, the EU AI Act, the law, the world's first comprehensive AI framework. This is our macro level. The European Union has basically rolled out a tiered, risk-based approach to regulating AI. And listen to this part, because it is absolutely crucial. It's extraterritorial. That means it doesn't just apply to companies sitting in Europe. If your organization operates directly or even indirectly within the EU market, or honestly, if just the output of your AI system is used there, this law applies to you. And the EU AI Act has some serious teeth. It's anchored by one very scary number, 7%. If a company violates the rules on banned AI uses, they can be slapped with fines up to 40 million euros, or up to 7% of their global annual turnover. I mean, whichever is higher. That is a staggering financial penalty. We're talking high stakes here that require C-suite attention, like yesterday. So how do they evaluate this? Well, the EU divides AI into 4 pretty clear tiers of risk. First up, unacceptable risk. These are just banned outright, no exceptions. Think AI used for social scoring or manipulative techniques that mess with human behavior. Second is high risk. This tier requires stringent compliance, really rigorous risk assessments, and actual human oversight. We're talking about AI in critical spaces like healthcare diagnostics or hiring. Third, we have limited risk. These systems mostly just need transparency. Like if someone's chatting with a bot or looking at an AI deepfake, they just need to be clearly told, hey, this is AI. And finally, minimal risk, which covers things like spam filters or video games. For now, those are unregulated by the Act. Now, let's quickly clarify some jargon you'll hear a lot: General Purpose AI, or GPI. Basically, these are models that show significant generality and can handle a massive range of tasks. GPT-4 is a perfect example. What's absolutely vital to know here is that if a GPI is deemed to present a systemic risk, which is usually based on the sheer amount of compute power it takes to train it, the providers face intense scrutiny. They have to undergo strict adversarial testing, model evaluations, and they literally have to track and report serious incidents to the regulators. And guys, we are staring down a looming regulatory cliff here. By February 2026, the implementation guidelines and practical examples will drop. Just 6 months later, in August 2026, the Act becomes generally applicable, meaning they start enforcing those obligations for high-risk AI systems. Then August 2027 tackles product integration, and by December 2030, even your legacy IT systems have to be brought into compliance. The runway is incredibly short. Organizations really need to start getting their ducks in a row immediately. So how do we actually prepare for that? Let's move to Section 3, NIST, Managing Risk, Operationalizing AI Safety. We are zooming in from the legal courtroom right into the operational boardroom. The NIST AI Risk Management Framework, developed by the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, has super quickly become the global gold standard for actually putting AI governance into practice. As PwC points out, federal policies often shape corporate norms, accelerating AI adoption while maintaining appropriate safeguards. And that hits the nail on the head. That's exactly why NIST is so incredibly valuable. Yes, it's voluntary, but it gives businesses the flexible, sector-specific processes they desperately need. It bridges that massive gap between trying to innovate at lightning speed and putting up the necessary safety guardrails that laws like the EU AI Act demand. NIST breaks this down into a continuous life cycle loop made of 4 core functions. Step 1, map. You have to establish the context, scope, and purpose of your AI. Step 2 is measure. This is where you actually quantify risks, things like bad data quality, inherent bias, or security flaws. Step 3, manage. You actively implement controls, mitigation actions, and guardrails based on what you measured. And finally, step 4, govern. Establish the ongoing oversight, the policies, and the cross-functional roles needed to keep this whole loop running. It's just a really systematic, smart way to constantly find and fix your AI risks. But who actually owns this process? Well, newsflash, AI risk isn't just the data science team's problem anymore. It requires cross-functional ownership across your entire C-suite. Your general counsel and head of risk, they need to oversee the enterprise strategy and legal exposure. Your CISOs have to step up and address AI-specific cybersecurity vulnerabilities. Board members and audit committees must make sure leadership actually has the resources to govern these systems. And of course, your AI and data science teams have to bake these mitigations directly into the architecture from day one. All right, zooming all the way down to the code base now. Section 4 OWASP, technical threats and securing the code base. We've covered the international laws. We've talked about the operational frameworks. But what actually happens when developers sit down and start building applications with large language models? Which naturally leads us to this big question. What are the biggest LLM threats facing developers today? Think about it. When you plug a generative AI model into your core enterprise systems, what are the specific, tactical security vulnerabilities that hackers are just waiting to exploit? Well, the OWASP Top 10 for LLMs gives us the playbook. These top vulnerabilities, they aren't theoretical. These are active gaps. Hackers can manipulate your models through prompt injections, they can completely poison the training data, or they can exploit permission issues and excessive agency to outright steal your data. We're also looking at insecure output handling or triggering massive data leakage. These are easily exploitable vulnerabilities sitting in enterprise AI applications right now that need direct, immediate attention. To really see how dangerous this gets, let's compare 2 massive threats side by side. On the left, we have prompt injections. This is when an attacker uses cleverly crafted inputs to trick the LLM into ignoring its system rules and just doing whatever the attacker wants. On the right, we have excessive agency. This happens when an LLM is given way too much autonomy, like, say, the ability to send emails or modify databases without a human ever hitting approve. Now, imagine an attacker uses a prompt injection to trick an AI that also happens to have excessive agency. Boom! The AI could execute incredibly harmful actions on the attacker's behalf before you even know what happened. And the threat gets even snakier with something called indirect prompt injections. This is wild. This is when malicious instructions aren't even typed directly into the chatbot by a user. Instead, they're hidden inside third-party content, like white text on a web page or buried invisibly in a PDF resume. When your enterprise LLM unknowingly retrieves and tries to summarize that document, it ingests those malicious instructions. That can weaponize your AI from the inside out, potentially leading to unauthorized actions or silent data exfiltration. Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. Let's bring it all home. Section 5, the path forward, minimum viable governance. The big question now is, how do we bring the macro legal requirements of the EU AI Act, the operational steps of NIST, and the micro-technical defenses of OWASP all together into a single, unified strategy? The answer lies in a concept called minimum viable governance, or MVG. Now, the goal here is absolutely not to paralyze your company with endless red tape. Nobody wants that. MVG means applying lightweight controls to manage your verification, evidence, and approvals without totally overwhelming your innovation cycles. It's really about establishing a clear inventory of everywhere AI is being used in your business, putting in some streamlined reporting, and just ensuring you have exactly enough governance to protect the business while still moving fast. Which brings us to one final, pretty provocative thought for this explainer. I want you to ask yourself, is your organization controlling its AI, or is your AI controlling your risk? By actively adopting these 3 frameworks, the EU AI Act for legal compliance, NIST for operational risk management, and OWASP for technical security, you can actually build a comprehensive shield for modern enterprise AI. Look, it takes effort, it takes cross-functional teamwork, and a really proactive mindset. But honestly, the cost of getting it wrong is simply too high. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack all of this today. Stay curious and keep learning.